Hey everybody, it's Stephanie with the Learning Project. You guys, we are in our next segment. Girl, get a doula. Yes, yes, yes. This time though, I have a very special guest. I am so excited, you guys. This is my doula, Dominique. So we want to welcome you. Thank you so much for coming. You guys, this is our segment of Sending Strength and Love. And I really wanted to dive into getting a doula because I mean, my whole journey, many of you guys have been watching it. I have learned the importance of having a good support system. And I think a lot of times we think of a person that can get a doula as a person that is pregnant. Dominique has schooled me. Like, I didn't even know that you can have a doula for a miscarriage. You can have a doula during pregnancy, after pregnancy. I mean, there's all of these different pieces. And then because I've been looking up so much stuff about doulas, y'all, there's like even a doula that helps people accept death, which I didn't know. And I thought that was really interesting because they even help people like get their wills together and talk about death. And I'm telling y'all, so it's a real thing. There's so many different types of doulas out here, but we're going to be talking about doulas that help women and men during pregnancy, before and after. So Dominique, welcome so much. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to our segment. So
I appreciate it. I'm glad I'm here.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself and where did this whole doula thing start for you?
So about me, let's see. I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, and I came over here to Spokane to go to school and get my biology degree from Whitworth. And so that's how you and I know each other. And while I was there, so I mean, you know my daughter, and you know that she's very much into birth and babies and family.
Yes.
And I assume I don't remember much of myself at 5 years old, but I assume I was probably the same way because it just kind of followed me into adulthood. And I got my biology degree, and my original idea was to become an OBGYN, right? I knew I wanted to be around birthing people.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything other than that. I was like, get a biology degree, go to med school, deliver babies. That was it. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
But on the way there, I encountered some life events that kind of changed my scope, but I didn't know how to do, like what to do to get to this thing that I knew that there was something that I needed to do that was before the doctor.
Right.
So my best friend got pregnant when she was 15.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very strange that year. I think it was 2002 or 2003 is when all the babies were born, but I think it was like 10 teenage pregnancies that I had encountered at the age of 15 and 16. And all of those pregnancies, I realized that these young girls needed somebody there. They didn't have a support system. They had their parents, but they were also feeling a lot of shame and, resentment and regret for these decisions that they had made, but they also didn't have the resources or
Right.
education and the knowledge to, it wasn't available to them. But I still, again, didn't know what that meant. I just knew I really liked being there when people were in labor. I liked to spend their pregnancy with them and just be this like super awesome helper for them. So fast forward, I get my biology degree, and at one point I remember there was somebody that we went to school with that had gotten pregnant, and her and I didn't really see eye to eye. We weren't the best of friends before that, and then something happened. I don't know. Anyway, we got to be really close, and she allowed me to be there for her pregnancy. Like I was pregnant during college, and then when her son was born, she let me be there in the room. And at one point, it was me, her mom, her husband, a couple friends, and all these people. And the nurse came in and was like, all right, this isn't working. There's a lot of people in here. You guys need to get out. And she looked over at me, and I don't know what my face looked like, obviously, but she was like, she can stay. And I was like, me? Like, you know that I want to be here. Well, thank you very much. And I know that for some reason, me just being there with her was a calming aspect. And the nurse had said this word that I was like, I don't know what that is, but whatever. She was like, oh, are you her doula? And I'm like, sure. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, cool. So I graduate college, right? I'm just a friend that's here to support my friend. And so I graduate college. Again, life happens. I kind of changed my mind, thought I wanted to be a teacher, didn't really work. Came back to Spokane and was just looking up what is this person that helps somebody give birth? Or, and then somebody was like midwife. And I was like, oh, okay, midwife, great.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that. And at that point, that was in 2012. And it was this whole idea that midwives were these like very crunchy granola,
Yes.
Birkenstocks in the field giving birth to people, like very, very backwoodsy. And I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do understand the midwifery model of care more than the hospital model of care, because at this point I had seen tons and tons of, like, I won't say, necessarily traumatic events happening to people, but I could
Mm-hmm.
see in certain situations where people's voice and their advocacy for themselves
Yeah.
was taken away by the medical professionals, and I was
Yeah.
like, this isn't okay. Somebody needs to speak up for them, or somebody needs to tell them that they can speak up for themselves.
Exactly.
So I looked into midwifery, and then this word doula kept popping up, and I'm like, what is a doula? What is that? So I look
Mm-hmm.
into it, and just so happened that this was in spring of 2013, that following summer coming up, there was going to be this doula certification. And it's like,
Mm.
if you feel called to help birthing people, in labor and directly after, then you probably would want to be a doula, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to this doula certification with Dona International. It's a very well-known doula training program all around the world. They train doulas. So I got my doula training, and that was over a weekend. It was just a, like very quick, fast
Yeah.
training. And so that was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then that Sunday, my trainer reached out to me, and she was like, hey, there's this other doula in town that wants to get up with you. She has a client that needs a doula. Do you think that you could do it? And I was like, sure, I need clients for certification. She goes, oh,
Yeah.
good, because she's due next Friday. And I was like, oh, okay, well, all right, let's do it, So, and the ball just kind of rolled on from there. And I've just been kind of seeking out people that I feel like don't necessarily know what they need from the
Mm-hmm.
hospital, but they know that, like, when I go in here, I'm going to need support, and my spouse isn't the only one. So that's basically what doulas do, right? I think you've talked about that
Right.
on your podcast,
Yeah.
that we're there to help support people. My journey has been, it started off just supporting everyone, and I still want to support everyone, but specifically in the last couple years, I've really honed in on reproductive justice and
Mm.
understanding that Black women in particular, and Black babies, but as far as the maternal mortality crisis that's happening here in the United States, Black women are at a huge disadvantage for having
Yes.
healthy, happy, and successful birth outcomes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, that's where I need to go, specifically because I'm a Black woman.
Right.
I had a doula, and she was amazing. And I knew her from before. So that was that doula that I met in 2013,
Yeah.
that hooked me up with her friend. So she was like, I knew that that's who I wanted to go see for my birthing process and the progress and what that was going to be.
Yeah.
So she helped me, and none of my family, at the time, none of my family was here in Spokane.
Mm.
And so I was like, I need someone. I didn't have very many friends. A lot of my friends, when I got pregnant, were just like, that means you can't party with us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So bye, So
Yeah.
like, I know that I'm going to need some support. My spouse was like, was pretty disconnected from his family at the time too. So we were kind of just ourselves. And
Yeah.
I knew, like, I need to prepare myself. So I did everything that I could. I got my doula, and she was everything that I needed. She was
Mm.
that strong voice in my ear when I was like, I can't do this. I give up. I quit. She was like, girl, if you don't get up and walk around this room, and I'm like, I don't want to. And she's like, I understand that, but you need to.
Yeah.
She was that strong voice for me. She wasn't going to just like pat me on my head and tell me everything was okay.
Yeah.
She got to know me as a person and spent real time with me to get to know me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that that's been my journey up until now. Obviously 2020 threw a huge wrench in the game for everyone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I took 2020 off to kind of recertify, like I said, because I was looking and honing my skills in on
Mm-hmm.
Black birthing bodies in America, that I needed a doula program that was focused on that. And also I wanted to become a full spectrum doula. So like we
Mm.
talked about, there's doulas for everything, right?
Yeah.
So full spectrum doulas kind of cover the gamut from preconception all the way to death or end of life for pregnancies and birthing people. Excuse me. So some doulas are preconception doulas that will help you, or fertility doulas, they'll call themselves. So they're helping you get set up if you're doing IUI or ICI, things like that, getting you set up with specific herbalists or naturalists or, you know, naturopaths that help with all those type of fertility issues. And then you have your run-of-the-mill doula, birth doulas that help with just pregnancy and birth right after. You have postpartum doulas. We have doulas that's like are specific for miscarriages, like you said. So if someone has been experiencing infertility and are having a lot of miscarriages, there's doulas that will help with that. There are also abortion doulas, which a lot of people are like, eek, you know, they kind of pinch back on that, but they forget that everybody deserves to make their own choices and everybody should be able to do that. And so if you're making that choice for yourself, it doesn't mean that it's easy.
Absolutely. And I just want to put a pin in that because a lot of people, you may be hearing this, you're like, abortion. There is a podcast that I did with Elizabeth. Oh my goodness, what's her last name? Forgot her last name, but you guys, you need to look it up. A lot of times people think that abortions are just people that get pregnant and they go to the clinic to get an abortion.
Right.
There are abortions that are happening when people are pregnant and they have to do an abortion in order to live, in order to survive.
Right.
And I think that is definitely, it's a really hot topic for me, and definitely a pro-choice person, and definitely wanted to do more podcasts on this because I think there's such a negative connotation and a misconception of what actually happens when a person is labeled or a person is going in for an abortion, and having someone to help support you through that is crucial, it's critical, and it's so important. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I have had the unofficial, you know, like I don't say that I'm an abortion doula because I haven't had full training on what that entails, but I have experienced and held hands of people that have had to experience abortions. And so it's really, it's a tough subject because a lot of people just think that, you know, there are these like wayward people that just made a mistake, and that's the only reason why somebody would get an abortion, and it does not. And so being able to hold the hands of people and hold space for people going through a really tough time, a tough decision, especially when in some cases they wanted that baby and for whatever reason, which is usually none of our business, they can't keep that pregnancy. And so they have to do that. So it's a really sensitive subject for me. I could go on for hours. And I do one day want to add that to my list, or, you know, put that hat on, that person also.
Absolutely, because I think a lot of people don't understand, people need support. And the thing that I told you, so let me tell you this story real quick, you guys. So Dominique's in the store, I'm in the store, Fred Meyer's, we're walking by, I was like, Dominique, she's like, Stephanie, and her little girl's there, and we're, you know, talking all that stuff, and she tells me she's a doula, and I had just had a miscarriage, and I was really struggling. I mean, mentally, I just didn't want to be even around anything that would cause me to remotely think. And so, you know, I was going through a lot of emotions. I was going through, you know, working tons of hours so that I didn't have to deal with anything. So, you know, that was a huge piece for me. And, you know, then a year later, I get pregnant, and I'm like, I am in COVID. And they just told me that my mom cannot come in the hospital room. It's just going to be me and my husband. Now, granted, you guys, my husband is the bomb. He is very reliable. He's chill. But I need somebody that knows what is going on in the delivery room with me. And just because this is my first child, anybody that knows me, I'm definitely type A person that likes to be in control. I want to know exactly what's going to happen. I want it to plan. I want it to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. However, that in my own mind, I was like, I need to make sure we are prepared. And so I ended up calling Dominique, and I was like, hey, do you think you could take us on as a client? And let me tell you, the first session that we had with you, Jason, you left, and Jason looks at me. He was like, this is the best decision that we ever made.
That's what you want to hear.
Yes.
That is what you want to hear.
And one of the things that I think too, you coming into our life as our doula is giving him the confidence and allowing him to see where he stands in pregnancy and birth and all of these pieces. You guys, so I'm working on a training right now. It's about babies, and it's this, I'm going to be setting up this training about segments of like movies, and it's gonna have like a bunch of questions, blah, blah, blah. But there's a part in this one movie that I'm doing a lot of training in right now. It's focused on babies, but there was a study that was done about men. And they did, it was men and women. So they had 80 couples. And the couples basically, they were measuring the love hormone that goes through a mother's body.
Oxytocin.
And so they measured this level of oxytocin. They do the same thing for fathers. And they found that the same level of oxytocin that's in a mother is also in a father. It has to be activated though. And I think that, you know, when we look at these situations about, you know, absentee fathers, we're looking at situations with, you know, fathers not feeling bonded to the child. You know, we have to ask ourselves, you know, have we done enough for, you know, people to be bonded from the very beginning?
Right.
And I think where you came in is really giving him that confidence to say, hey, this is how you do this. This is what you're going to need to look for. This is what you're going to need to, you know, do. And she gave me a great book, you guys. And I showed you guys, I think a couple times on a couple podcasts, The Birth Partner. And it's a phenomenal book.
Isn't it so good?
It is. It's so good.
I have 2 copies or 2 editions. I'm like following all the editions every time.
I love it because, you know, it just breaks everything down so simple. It gives you checklists, gives you a lot of different things. And so, you know, those tools gave us the confidence that we both needed to feel okay delivering a baby during COVID, because it is very scary to know that Black women have a high mortality rate. And then, by the way, you can't have anybody else in there, you know, it's a scary thing, you know? So, you know, having someone there to support you along the way is a critical piece. Dominique, you know, for you, like just like working with different clients and, you know, experiencing a doula yourself, what is your, you know, your top maybe 5 reasons or 3 reasons why people should absolutely use a doula during their birthing process?
Ooh, that's tough. Because there's so many. I think the one is what the one that you say all the time is the support, right? Because without the support and knowing that you are going to be okay, I think that's where a lot of people, we get so wrapped up in TV and you know, this like huge emotional like roller coaster of a birth. Your water breaks all over the floor, and it's just like this woman grabbing her husband's hand and blaming him for what he did to her. So I think having that support there is one. Education is the other. Let's see, top 5 reasons for having a doula. It's a friendship. You really get to, like, if you have a good doula, you usually have a friend for life. A lot of people use this as a business, and that's no shade on them. But for me, I get my clients through word of mouth most of the time, or seeing them in the grocery store, you know, what I mean? Because it's about community to me. And so I think that adding that extra individual to your family, let's see, what else? What's another good reason for a doula? Just your chances of having the birth that you want is raised because you have somebody there sticking to not necessarily this plan, because this is the one time that set in stone doesn't work for me, because I understand how biology works and physiology works, and that human bodies will do whatever they want whenever they want.
Right.
Because you write it down doesn't make it true.
For real.
But just having someone there, you know, if you say, like you've said to me, you want dim lights and soft music, that's my job. So that you can look back on this incredibly like monumental moment in your life and say, I'm so glad that somebody turned the lights down. Right? Or I'm glad that this song came on, or the perfect mantra that I had, blah, blah, blah. And then again, I think lastly is the strength, right? It's to find strength in yourself as a birthing person, because a lot of times as and I say the word birthing person to be inclusive of all types of people that give birth, right? Because trans people can give birth, and some people that don't identify as male or female will give birth, all of these things. But in those types of situations, a lot of power has been taken from you, especially
Yes.
as a Black or brown person. When you walk into a facility in Spokane, when you see, you know, not a lot of people look like you, automatically, even though it's not this completely right in your face racism, there is medical racism. And so
Yes.
walking into a room already prepared with your, you know, with the knowledge that you have, I think is a really good reason to have a doula, because your doula is going to be that person to help you, educate you on what's going to happen, what you can say yes to, what you don't have to have done to you, all these things. And so that pumps you up, you know, that gives you that confidence to know that you can do it, because you're terrified, especially if it's your first child. You're like, I've never done this before. Like, I have no clue what I'm doing. But if I have somebody that's reminding me that these are the things that we've worked on already, then you're like, okay, I might have not done this before, but at least I'm prepared. Right?
Yeah,
like nobody goes in, you don't take your driving test without ever driving a car.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You put so many other things that happen in our lives we practice for. You don't marry someone the day that you meet them.
Right.
You practice being with that person, right?
Yep.
So it's the same exact thing. It's like every other thing that we see as something big in our lives, we practice for them.
Yes.
And this thing, yes, people can die from this very monumental thing. So let's practice not dying. Let's do the best that we can, so that we have all the information, we know what's going on, and we have the strength and the confidence and the knowledge to speak up for ourselves.
Exactly.
And having a doula, I think, is that confidence booster. It's that builder. So that's why those are the top 5 reasons why I think
I love it.
It's probably different for other people, other doulas, and other reasons for a doula, right? So a preconception doula is going to be, they're going to have different reasons. Postpartum doula will have different reasons. So
no, I think you hit something on the head, and I really want to talk about it, because we talked a little bit about it last time, which is, you know, having the choice and the option. You know, I want the choice to say no. I want the choice to say yes. And we talked a lot about, you know, teens getting pregnant and not having the support that they need. And I think sometimes when a teen gets pregnant, we, in my family, we've had a few people that have been teen moms, including my own mom. And that support piece is so crucial. And even if you've gone through it yourself, you know, as a teen mom, and then if your child becomes a teen parent, it gets hard, you know. And having an outside voice to give you confidence, to give you strength, it's so important. My niece was telling me about when she had became a teen mom. You know, one of the things that she was said to me, she said, I didn't know that there were 3 different types of medications that I could have got to manage my pain during birth. It's like, you know, I think one of the things that we try to do as a society, like, if this caused you so much pain, you won't do it again, right? Instead of saying, let me support you through this pain, and let me help you mentally unravel what is going on in you. You know what I mean? And I think that's a hard concept. And even with me being, you know, 36 years old and getting ready to have my first baby, there's still things that are very troubling or scary to me. And I feel like we're prepared, but I'm like, we're not prepared.
But you're always going to feel that way. I think
it is,
until the day, and you know, and even on that day, I'm 100% sure you're going to look at me and go, I'm not ready for this. And I'm going to be like, well, guess what?
I'll be like, Dominique, I want you to do it.
Right. You're gonna be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm going to say, well, you know, guess how we don't do this anymore? We just got to get the baby out. That's right. This is how we get not to do this anymore.
Exactly.
So, yeah, having support, that's the biggest thing. And that's what I realized at a young age, was like, nobody supports young moms. Nobody supports mothers in general. They expect us to just like do all of these things. And so part of the idea, one of my friends, and I've had a couple people tell me this too, and it's been mostly men, which is really funny, that are like, why wouldn't you get the epidural? Like, why would you put yourself through that? And I'm like, first of all, because I've researched about what epidurals are, how they affect your body, what the pros and what the cons are, and I've weighed it out, and this is the choice that I've made for myself. And I have a support system that's going to help me stick with that choice. And I personally put myself in a position where I couldn't get an epidural. I had a birth center. So they were like, too bad, sweetheart. When I was like, I wanted it, girl, I'm telling you. I was like, okay, this is too much for me. But at one point, I remember telling my doula, I was in the bathtub because I was begging her to get in the bathtub. And so that's one thing and I don't know if you've gotten there in the book yet, but it talks about in early labor, you kind of want to stay away from the bathtub because it can kind of slow things down. You have to get in the shower because then you're standing and you still have gravity. But if you get in the tub and you sit down, and you're kind of like relaxing, then your body's like, oh, we don't have to do birth anymore. Okay, we'll dial it back, and we want to kind of keep forward. So I'm like begging her to get in the bathtub. And she's like, no, get up and walk. And I'm like, I don't want to walk. Please don't make me walk. And she's like, come on, let's go walk. And I'm like, ugh, okay, fine. So I'm pacing my living room floor. I'm squatting. I'm sitting on the ball doing all this stuff. And finally things start like really kicking up. And she can tell, as a doula, you kind of learn all of these signs and things that are happening that are changing that you kind of get excited for.
Yeah.
Like doulas get excited for throw up. We're like, oh my God, she puked. That's a great thing. So I had gotten to this point where I'm like begging, and she's like, okay, we can get in the tub. And I didn't realize that they had been running the bathtub for me this whole time. So I go and I get in the tub, and I remembered like this contraction came over me, and I kind of like breathed it down, and I'm like, okay. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? This isn't that painful. And she's like, really? Why? Why do you say that? And I was like, you know what's worse than this? I think for me, it was depression, like feeling that, like what you were saying, as far as like feeling your miscarriage, when you were like, I would rather fill my life with all of these things so I don't have to deal with this other thing. I was like, depression hurts more than this physical pain because I know that something is coming of this. When I was depressed, I thought that was it. And I was just stuck in that sadness forever. And it physically hurt me. So I was like, no, if I can get through that, I can get through this.
Yes.
And that's what I try and tell a lot of my clients is like, if you've ever been through some really, really hard stuff in your life that you physically felt it, if you made it through that, you can make it through this. And I know that because you've prepared yourself, this is where we are. So if you go into that birth room and you're going, all right, this hurts. I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it because I want to hold my baby and I want my spouse to hold my baby. Like there's something great at the end of this.
Yes.
So that's what I look at.
I love that you are talking about this part because one of the things that we talk a lot about is visualizing your birth experience, and, working on swaying and working on thinking about how you're going to move around in your living room and how you're going to move around in the hospital. And, it was actually very good for me. And I do a lot of visualization. Anybody that's listened to my other podcasts, anybody listen to my podcasts the other way. I talk a lot about visualizing things and creating like vision boards in your home, and putting the vision in front of you all the time, so that you can constantly be reminded of your long-term goal or short-term goal, whatever it may be. And today I've been working out, everybody, and so last week I was like, I'm not going to the gym, but today I told myself, I said I have to go to the gym. And so I ended up getting everything together as far as the visualizations and doing all of these pieces. How do you overcome like the pain that you may experience? Well, like what are some of those techniques and methods?
So one of the first things I always tell people is the only thing that we can control is our breathing, right? So once you get a hold of your breathing and you realize that and this is something that we're going to work on later on. Hi, is that my baby?
It is. It's my crazy dog. Hold on one second. Sorry.
So one of the things is breathing really deeply, right? Like taking in a big, huge belly breath and letting that breath out, and you're working with your body. So as you are relaxing your body and exhaling, then the only thing that's really working that hard, it should be your uterus. And that pain that you're feeling is going to be temporary. And so one of the things that we talk about is like, once you get done with that contraction, it's over and you don't have to think about it anymore. So what I think what people do, what makes things more painful is the fear and the anticipation of the next contraction.
Yes.
So what'll happen is you'll have a contraction and a lot of people will tense up and they'll grab the bed and do all these things and oh my God. And I'm like, whoa. Take a deep breath. Okay. Push down. All right, let it out through your fingers, wiggle your toes. We'll do horse breath and like blow out your air through your lips. And then once that contraction is over, I'm like, okay, take your rest. Take your rest. Don't worry about the next contraction. We're not worried about that one, and we're not worried about the last one. We're right here. We're focused on breathing. You're going to drink some water. Here's a honey stick. Here's a whatever, you know, like we're keeping your mind occupied with the things that are happening right in front of you. So that when that next contraction, because you'll feel it. That's why people call them waves or surges, because it doesn't just punch you right away. Some people will feel that if they have like medicalized inductions, they'll feel the contractions don't come at a wave. They start at the peak and they end at the peak. And so you're like, every single time. But usually when you're unmedicated, your contractions kind of come in as this like slow wave, and you're like, oh, and you know, you're like, I can tell when it's happening. I go, take a deep breath, breathe, you know, and you're taking a huge belly breath, let it out. And we're just focusing on breathing up and down. So it's this pattern. We find a rhythm. Right? And we work on toning. So those things, all of those things put together. And if that's not working, then we switch positions, because sometimes contractions hurt more when you're on your back or when you're on your knees or something. So I'm like, okay, I'm watching you for 3 contractions to see, is it the pain of the contraction, or are you just in a funky position that's making it feel worse? So let's switch. Let's get you on the birth ball. Let's get you on hands and knees. Let's get the squat bar out. You know, girl, I told you your house is going to look like a jungle gym. They're going to be like, what is hanging off the ceiling over the door? Because we're going to be trying everything. And those are all techniques that have been brought to us by our ancestors over the years. This is the thing that we've been doing: breathing, eating, birthing people, right? We've been doing those things since the beginning.
I love it.
This is what we've learned. So get moving. We're going to be walking around, breathing, doing big, huge lion breaths. Like, there's things to do instead of just focusing on how much this is going to hurt. So that's what you do. It's going to hurt, but we're going to try and focus on what you can do to not focus on the hurt.
And that's what I've been trying to like really put my mind into, which is, okay, this is going to be a different feeling and sensation for my body, and it's going to freak me out. But the thing that I feel like is, what tools do you have to help you get through this? I feel like you are a tool for sure, whole toolbox in itself. But you know, I also, on Thursday nights, my husband and I, we try to practice everything that you taught us, and that's in these books and different things like that, because we want to make sure that we're not doing this the day of.
Right, the first time.
Right. The funny thing is, we were practicing the different positions that you were telling me, like, okay, you know, get on all fours and things like that. And I realized, like, we don't massage each other. And so, like, he was like doing this creepy, weird
Frankenstein hands.
I was like, don't touch me. Do not touch me, because I don't like that.
I don't know what you're doing, but I don't like it.
I don't like that. And I'm not even in labor. So I can't imagine me being in labor and then had him doing this Frankenstein thing. And so, like, he's been practicing. And I'm like, and now, like, the other night, I was just like, my back is hurting. He's like rubbing my back. And I'm like, I went to sleep. And I was
there
like,
you go.
Yeah. I was like, look at you and your massage techniques getting all
okay, husband.
Right.
Working on it, right?
Working on it, right. And so it's like, it's these crazy, weird moments that, you know, you realize, like, oh, we don't do that. Or, oh, I don't actually know how to do that.
Right. Or I just don't like that, you know, like, that's perfectly fine. And what's funny is, in labor, those things will change. So something that this is so funny, and Matt he will die on his grave with this story, because it was when Coral was born at the end of January, and Spokane winters are what they are. And sometimes they're really hot, and sometimes they're really cold. The week before that, we got dumped on, like, with all this snow. So I'm like, okay, the day that I go into labor, it's probably going to be below 20 and all this. It's going to be a blizzard, and we're not going to be able to make it to the. I was panicking and, like, ultra nesting everything. I made him go cut a bunch of firewood, because at the time we had a wood stove downstairs. So I was like, okay, when I go into labor, if it's morning or whatever, I don't care. I want you to, like, pack the wood stove full.
Yeah.
Bad idea. Worst idea ever, girl. Because then it just rained that whole week before she was born, but he still had it in his mind to pack the wood stove. And it was like 40 degrees outside. It wasn't cold. So he had packed the wood stove at 6 a.m. and our house was blazing. So then I'm like,
Ooh.
open the doors, open the windows. What is going on? Blah, blah. And your body temperature does that too, right? You have all these different kind of hormones
up and down.
going through. So yeah, you're hot and you're cold. So then he'd open the window and I'd be like, why'd you open the window? What's your problem? And he's like, I don't know what you want from me, woman. Like, you told me to pack the wood stove. I opened the windows. You're telling me to close the windows, put more wood in, and so as your doula and Jason, we will be completely like, it's fine. I'll be like, Jason, close the window. Usually if I'll see it, that's the thing about doulas. We learn how to read these, nonverbal cues about working people. And so you're like, oh, she looks a little, in between contractions, you even look uncomfortable. So I'm like, what's going on? You gotta pee? Let's go pee. Is your sock twisted, girl? Let me help you out.
It's true.
You can't. You get into that reptilian brain and you don't really know what you want. You're just like, I'm really uncomfortable. Don't touch me. And then you're like, I need my person to love me. So
yeah. It's so funny. It's so funny that you say that because I remember like one of our first meetings. We were getting ready to like practice some stuff or whatever. And you were like, do you have to pee? And I'm like, yeah. And like I went to
go pee.
Like in preschool all over again. The teacher sees like, girl, you need to go pee. You're doing the potty dance. I need you to go. I was like, no, I'm good. I can hold it. It's perfect. No, hon, you need to go
and that's what it'll be. That's going to be me. I have a checklist in my head of things to look for. Yeah. When's the last time she drank some water? What time? Okay, go pee. Yeah. Let's go pee. And a lot of times I'm not the one, and this is for partners, that partners feel like doulas are coming in and taking their job.
I love that you're talking about this right now.
That's not me. I don't want your job because guess who made that baby?
Yeah.
You do it. So I'm always like, hey, partner, take her to the bathroom. That way I can go over here. I'm going to start cleaning up stuff because things get messy and get moved around. I'm going to take a couple bites of my food, drink some water. You guys go. I usually say, have a couple contractions on the toilet. And then, because a lot of times people feel a lot comfortable like that because your body naturally will just relax when you sit on the toilet because that's what we taught ourselves to do. So it's something that you don't even think about. You just go sit on the toilet and then your body goes, oh, okay, we're at this place. I know what to do here. And then you don't have to do anything. So you just have a couple contractions sitting on the toilet and you're like, oh, I got to move. No, you don't have to move. But you can be more comfortable in a different room if you want. But if you want to stay on the toilet, go for it.
Yeah.
So things like that, there's going to be a lot of me going, Jason, do this, like go over and do this, or come over here to this side and do this with me. And sometimes I'll look at him and if he looks very tired, like one of my last births, me and the partner were holding her legs. And, I look over at him and he's just pasty white. Ooh. He's just white. And I was like, can we get him a chair? And the nurse was like, oh God. And so she runs around and, we sit him down in the chair and the nurse grabs mom's leg. But things like that, he was just locking his knees and freaking out that he just was bear hugging her leg. And I was like, that's not working, sir. But he didn't know, don't lock your knees and to breathe because he's freaking out. His baby's about to be born. So things like that doulas are just there as that. They're your support in all aspects. They're there to point out things that just the little things that you never thought that you needed to happen. So.
Exactly. Oh, this is so good, you guys. I'm so glad that we're talking all about this because so many people don't think about, their birth experience. And like, even when I got pregnant, I thought I was going to have like one doctor. The doctor was going to be with me the entire time. I was going to have the same nurses. I'm like, it's not like that in the medical system anymore. Nope. They have got that thing set up as a full functioning business. Yep. You're seeing 3 or 4 doctors because they don't know who's going to deliver you. You're seeing different types of nurses because they want to make sure that they all know understand who you are, what your chart looks like. You're seeing different ultrasound techs because, you might have 3 or 2 that are assigned to you. It hasn't been the experience that I thought it was going to be. Yeah. And that's when I realized like, okay, I need to get a doula or somebody to help me because I don't know what to do, and I think that's like that first part of vulnerability for me, realizing that I could not be my support system. Yeah. And I was going, and also too, I had just recently, I had my first big set of Braxton Hicks, and I was telling you about that. And I was like, I knew I wanted something from Jason, but I wouldn't verbalize it. And I just had you in the back of my mind, like, you got to tell us what you need. You got to tell us what you want. It's okay. Like, it's okay for you to tell us what you want. This is not a time for you to feel like you're being needy or, you know, you're trying to get attention or any of that stuff. You need something, express that to your partner, express that to me. So, you know, I look at Jason, I tell him what I need, and I finally, because he's like sitting there like, okay, what do you need? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, and I don't want to tell you. And I don't know why, but he just sat there. He just sat there, just waiting for me to tell him what I wanted. And I was like, I just want you to be here. I just want you to hold me. I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. And that just made all the difference, you know?
Just
and I think
just vocalizing that part.
Exactly. But I think because we're prepared, we're not prepared for what's going to actually happen, but we have tools that we can pull out and we can use. So, and I think that's a huge determining factor, especially for a lot of people that go through birth. It can build up a lot of resentment in a relationship when you don't have someone that's really there for you, you know, and but they don't know how to be there for you, but you're not really saying what you need for them. Like, and it's just kind of like y'all both just sitting there looking at each other and like, I'm mad at you, and he like, I'm mad at you too.
We just don't be mad. I don't know what to do. And it's like that a lot of times. Girl, I went to a birth one time. Oh Lord. Oh, it was one of my really good friends, and I was really happy that she wanted me to be there. But we get there, and her spouse at the time, they were in that situation where, you know, they didn't know what they needed from each other even before then, like during the pregnancy, and then now birth was happening, and her mom was there, and he was completely checked out. And I think that's what a lot of guys think, that's the only thing that they can do is completely checked out. I'm over here holding her leg up while she's trying to push, and he's reading a fishing magazine. And I'm like, get over here. You hold this leg. This is your baby. I want you to be a part. And he's like, oh, what? You know, like, what's going happening? On? And between contractions, he's on his phone, texting. And I'm like, okay, sir, no judgment. I get it that you are also freaking out, but obviously you weren't prepared. He didn't come to any of the meetings that we had before that, you know, because he thought, oh, I'm not giving birth, so therefore I don't need to be a part of it. And it's like, no. We need everybody here. If we could have the whole family on standby, like, look, grandma and grandpa, y'all is on the train. For real. Sister, y'all got the dog and the cat, feed the fish on Thursdays. I need somebody to come do laundry. Like, this is what it's community, right? And that's what doulas will do, is help you build a meal train. So postpartum doulas, love them, think they're amazing. I know I have a bunch of postpartum doula friends. They do amazing stuff. They're like, I mean, they'll do like overnights with you. They'll come over and help you do overnights, and they'll wash all the bottles. If you do cloth diapers, they'll wash diapers for you. There are doulas that are for your children. Wow. You can hire a doula that will be there for, if you have other kids, they will be there with them at the birth. Like, if you're like, I want my kids to be at the birth, but I don't want my mom or whoever, you can hire a doula to be there for your kids. And people are like, well, that's just a babysitter. I'm like, no, that's not a babysitter, because a babysitter probably, believe it or not, has never seen a live birth before. No. That's one thing that I was like confused about. How many people have children that have never seen a baby be born? Like, what? Are you serious? You don't know what happens to a body, you know, all the changes. But then, so people are like, I'm just going to go to the hospital and just have a baby. And then wonder why they walk out being like, what just happened to me? Why am I in this situation? How did I end up like this? It's like, you have to prepare yourself like everything else. Like I said, you can't get into something monumental without the practice and the knowledge beforehand. And just trust people, regardless of if they're doctors or nurses and they have all the schooling in the world, they're still strangers. They're just strangers, you know, that you met 10 months ago when they said, you know, blue line or whatever, you're pregnant. And now let us be the people to help you get through this very monumental thing, but only for medical purposes. You're not your friends, you know what I mean? So I think that's the importance of having a doula and having a support system, having a partner that understands that they have a role in this. They're not just a person. They are just as important as you, right? So Jason me and Jason buddies. We buddies. I'm gonna be like, listen,
I love it. I love it.
You're gonna tag me in. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. you know, like, that's what it is. It's not just me coming in with all of my bag of tricks and being like, it's the Dominique show. Absolutely not. I'm gonna be on the sidelines. I used to call myself the world's best cheerleader. That's what it is. Like, you got it, girl. But I
Yeah.
realized after a while that you got it, girl, isn't all that you need.
Yeah. They were like, go ahead and go in there, girl, you got this.
Right, exactly.
But I love that you're talking about this. I mean, so when you think about yourself as a doula, like, what's your vision? Like, what do you feel most passionate about? You know, if somebody was like, you know, I'm looking for somebody to maybe be my doula. Like, what is your vision, and what do you hope to accomplish in the future?
I think my vision as a doula is just to make sure that the birthing person and the family in general walk out of that room, if it's a room or if it's at their house, but as long as they walk away from that situation going, I did everything within my power for this to go the way that I wanted it to. In some ways it did. And if it didn't, I still know that I did everything in my power to do that. Like, I want people to feel confident about what happened. I don't want people to walk away going, I have no idea what just happened. I'm completely defeated. I'm completely deflated. I have nothing left. And I don't know what this was. It was, you know, like, I just thought I was going to have a baby and now XYZ happened. Instead, I want people to walk away going, I'm so glad that I did the things that I did, because this is the outcome. Whether or not I could have controlled it, whether or not, you know, some people end up having a C-section. Sometimes babies don't make it. Sometimes mothers don't make it. But knowing that when you walked in that door, you were empowered. And when you walk out of that door, you're empowered. So that's my biggest thing. And I've been in a couple births where I'm like, ooh, I don't think this is for me. And I talk to my other doula friends and they go, that wasn't in your control. And I'm like, you are so right. Whatever happened at that birth, I didn't make it happen, especially when it's babies that are like taking a little bit too long to start breathing. Mom's having a hemorrhage. Mom passes out, all those. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? And they're like, I hope you didn't do anything. Like, that's not your job. That is the job of the medical professionals.
Yes.
To, you know, revive baby, revive mom, do whatever it takes to make this a better situation. So I really had to like check myself. And that's what really prompted me to go, maybe I need to take some time off and, you know, figure out what I'm expecting to get out of this. Cause I just want people to feel empowered. That's the last thing. I just want people to walk away from their birthing experience being like, I did that. I did it. I believed in myself. I was strong enough to conquer something that I had never done before. And I did it, right? Like, that's, you see all these pictures of these moms after birth and they've got their fist up and they're like, they're kind of whatever. That is for me. I love that. I love listening to people going, oh my God, what did I just do? I'm like, you did it. And they're like, I got a baby. I'm like, you did. You did all of it.
That's so awesome.
That's just it for me. Just seeing the beautiful smile on people's faces when they're like, oh my God. I'm like,
I love that so much. You know, there's a UFC fighter. Her name is Amanda Nunes.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, my girl. So I don't know if you saw her last fight.
I didn't.
Okay. So she had a baby. And her and her partner, they went to a clinic. She you know, God did the whole insemination thing, and she got pregnant. She had the baby. So she just finished having a baby. She gets back out on the ring and tears this girl up in like 2 minutes.
Like all the time.
Like all the time. You know, like how she do. You know how Amanda do.
She did.
And so she comes out and she talks on the little interview. She says something that almost makes me cry. And she says, you know, they're like, you did so amazing. It's like you never left. You're right here, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, what do you think? You know, you're a lion. Like, what do you think? And she goes, I am dangerous. She was like, I plan to be the one person in the UFC that never loses a fight and is gonna knock you out. And she goes, and as a lioness, you know, when the lioness comes, you know, she's saying, and I'm just paraphrasing,
right?
You know, she was like, you know, I'm strong. She goes, I was strong before, but after I have had my baby, she goes, I'm even more dangerous.
Yeah.
And I like sent chills
girl,
down my body because I was just like, this experience is just so different. It's so unique to every person, you know, and if you, whatever way you give birth, it's all empowering, right?
Exactly.
But the point that she constantly was ringing in my head was that she said, I was powerful I was dangerous before, but I'm more dangerous now that I had a child.
Yes.
Because something awakened in her.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's something that I have been just like putting in my mind, because I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this baby. It's going to be like, you know, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. But it is one of the most powerful things that you can go through in your life, you know, just trying to have a baby in general, you know? And so it's, when you're talking about this experience, it's such a precious one. It's such a beautiful one. And, you know, I could definitely tell a difference in my pregnancy versus other people's pregnancy that don't have support. You know, I would tell people, I go to the acupuncturist, I go to a chiropractor, I got a doula, you know, I just put online my counselor, because I already know that I'm going to need that counseling piece. I want to make sure that I'm getting myself checked in, doing a lot of self-care. Those pieces are extremely important to me.
They are.
I have got a nutritionist, and she's been on here, Donnell Barlow, absolutely amazing, just feeds my soul.
Yeah.
So, you know, when people are looking for support systems, you know, this has been that chicken noodle soup good kind of conversation, y'all.
Yeah.
If people want to find you, Dominique, where can they find you? Like, just to ask questions, to even possibly even see if they can connect with you as a doula.
Oh, for sure. And you could probably put this, I don't know, in the comments or something. So I am on Instagram. I'm in the midst of like changing my Instagram from personal to more business. So if there's anybody out there that is good at marketing and branding, I know you, Stephanie, but like I said, you have a lot on your plate. So I'm not going to ask you for that.
Want to give a shout out to Tamara Bush. She's also amazing. She's the one that helps me with a lot of my stuff.
Okay. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Dove, DOVE _lies, LIES _bleeding, BLEEDING, Dove Lies Bleeding. You can also email me at Living Goddess Doula. This is my daughter, Coral.
I just got home from school.
Hello.
Wait a second. Living Goddess Doula at gmail.com. So that's LIVING Goddess, GODDESS, Doula, DOULA at gmail.com. For all those out there, like I said, my IG will be changing. So if you find Dove Lies Bleeding and then all of a sudden it changes, that's why.
No worries. I'm so excited that you share that information. Like, it's so good, you guys. You guys, I hope you have enjoyed this conversation. It has been packed with so much good stuff. You know, if you know somebody that needs to hear this, that needs to understand more about doulas, share. You guys, this is how we heal our communities, how we connect our community. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on this segment of Girl Get a Doula.
Girl Get a Doula.
Get a doula, girl. I love you guys so much. And until next time, you guys, see you soon and bye.
Bye. Thank you.